this is Cheryl McQueen, designer with Del Bellas Designs. Today we will be making a lovely card using the Sweet Poppy stamp set called Penguins. This stamp set is often thought of for Christmas because it includes Christmas stamps, but it can be used for so much more. It's great for a snowy scene or as a Mother's Day card. This is also a great card for beginners as it includes basic techniques, but is also fun for the more advanced stamper. So let's start out by looking at the supplies that we're going to be using today. We will be using the Multifarious Smooth and Supreme cardstock. I have cut this one to be 4 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches. Then we will be doing a little frame border. So I've just taken a piece of white cardstock. I've cut this one to be 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And then for our card base, I just took a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, cut it in half so that I had the 5.5 by 8.5, and then I just folded that in half for our back. The colors that we will be using today are going to be Distress inks. So we will be using Prize Ribbon and Stormy Sky. And then for our little bit of shadowing here, we will use the Black Soot. For our stamping of our image, we're going to use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne. We will also be using the Tim Holtz watercolor pencils to get just a little bit of accenting here. So I've got 3 colors that we will be using. One is Spiced Marmalade. We'll be using Fossilized Amber, and we'll be using Black Soot. We will be using blending brushes for applying our inks, and we will be using some paint brushes to do our little bit of color on the card. The stamp that we're going to be using today is the Sweet Poppy stamp set called Penguins. As you can see, it's got all of these wonderful different stamps in it. We will be using the penguins and a couple of the snowflakes today. This one is the A6 stamp set. We will also be using the Lavinia stencil. This one is the Feather Leaf, and it is ST014. We're also going to use the Lavinia masking sheets. I actually did a video tutorial under Talk Crafty to Me a few weeks ago in February. So you can always go to the Del Bellas Designs website, look at the Talk Crafty to Me category for the video tutorials, and that will show you how to use the masking sheets. I will kind of briefly go over it, but for a little more detailed information, you'll want to look at that particular tutorial. We will also be using some water. That's just so that we can create a little bit of a snowy effect in the background. And then when we put our cards together, we will use the adhesive running tape, or you can also use something like the Ultra Bond adhesive glue or any of the glues that you have that you use for putting your projects together. All right, so let's get started on our project. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is go ahead and stamp our penguins onto our art card. I do like to use a stamping platform. I just likes to helps me assure that I'm going to get a really good, nice, clean image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Multifarious cardstock and just place it on my stamping platform. Now I use a little sticky grid so I don't have to worry about messing with magnets. So now that we've got that down, we will get out our penguin from our package. And we will place him kind of to the left-hand side, because we're going to want to put our snow word over here on the right-hand side. So we will just lay him there. And then we will take our VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink to stamp him up. make sure you get your ink on fairly evenly. This one does have some little details, and you would like for those to really stand out. So we will stamp that down. Rub across the entire surface to make sure that you make full contact with the paper. Get a nice sharp image. Alright, I'm going to I like my black images to be really sharp, so I'm going to add just a little bit more ink to sharpen up some of that black. There we go. Okay. And we will take this off for now. So what we're going to do next is we're actually wanting to stamp a second image like we did this, but we're going to stamp it onto our masking sheets. So what we're going to do is, let me find, I was going to show you, I already have one penguin already cut out. So let me grab him and show you what he looks like when he's done. Okay, so I can't seem to find the one that I cut out before, so I will go ahead and re-demonstrate how to do this. I'll turn the camera off when it comes time to cut it out, so you don't have to sit there and watch me cut it out. But what we will do is we are going to take a piece of the Lavinia masking sheet. It comes with two sides. It has a paper side and then it has a plastic cover side. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our masking sheet, and then we will take our stamp, and I'm going to put him up here in the corner so I don't waste too much of my stamping sheets. The nice thing about this package of the stamping sheets is that it comes with 4 in a package, so you get a lot of use out of them. Then all I'm going to do is just basically put a little bit of ink on my stamp. This one does not have to be perfect. You just need to basically be able to see the outline so you'll know where to cut. So I will stamp that down. And even though it's very light, it really doesn't matter, because like I said, all I need to do is be able to see the outside edge. So let me pull my stamp off and we'll set our stamping platform aside. And then I'm going to cut out my penguins. And basically with that, you're just going to cut around the edges. And where you see little fluffy parts, you can cut those off. That's going to be just fine. Okay, so what I have done is just stamped and cut out the image. Now what I want to do is take my art card. Like I said, this has this clear plastic back. We're just going to peel that off. Set that aside because you can use this later on. So when you're through, you'll just put it back on the plastic cover. And then you can save that for another project. And then we're just going to line this up over the top of our image that we have stamped on our art card. And I got that just a little crooked. So we put that image over the top of the other image. And then that way when we start doing our background, we're not going to have to worry too much about the ink getting on top of the penguin, where we're going to want to keep him, the white parts white, or do our other colors. So now I'm going to take my Stormy Sky, and I'm just basically going to do my background just by using my blending brush. Okay, so you probably noticed that I did go over it a couple of times. I did want it to be just a little bit darker. Stormy Sky is a little bit lighter blue. I love the color, but sometimes I want it to be just a little bit darker, so I went over and did my coating a couple of times. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and make our snow design. So we are going to spritz with water, and then we are just going to take a paper towel and lightly damp down on that to get the snow effect. Let me grab my paper towels real fast. And now we will take this and just do a spritz. Let it sit for just a second so that it kind of pulls the ink up. And then lightly dab around. A little more on the top there. And we get our effect that it looks like there's some snow in the background there. Now we are ready to go ahead and do our stencil. You wipe up the surface just a little bit since we got it wet. Now sometimes I like to go ahead at this point and tack my card down so that it doesn't wiggle while I'm doing my stenciling. And I do the same thing with my stencil. I just don't feel comfortable that I hold it very steady. So I'll just take a little bit of tape and tack them down, and then I don't have to worry about getting that accidental wiggle. So now we're going to take our prize ribbon, and we're just going to kind of do it across the center right here, just to add a little bit of accent and fun. I don't want to do the whole thing, so I'm just going to do a little bit. Go over it twice so I can get it just a little bit darker. Alright, I'm just going to take a peek before I lift it up, make sure that's where I want it. Looks good. So now we can take our stencil off. And now we are ready to remove the masking paper. So we will just gently peel that up. And you can see that we didn't get any of our background or stenciling on top of our art. So I am now going to take my little piece of plastic backing, place my penguin on top of that so that if I want to do another project where I need to mask him off, then I already have it cut out and I can reuse it. right. Let's go ahead and cover up our prize ribbon so it doesn't dry out. And now we will go ahead and start on the coloring part for our penguins. So with that, I am going to start out with my fossilized amber. Get my paintbrush here, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of water, just kind of spritz it there so I can get my paintbrush wet. Just kind of stroke it across the pencil to pick up a little bit of color. And then we're just going to do a little bit, kind of some accenting. With our penguin. And then we'll put just a little bit up here as well. All right, and that's basically all we need for our yellow part. Now if you want to, you can get some of the color off of your pencil, off of your brush, and then just lightly stroke down a little bit. So what that does is that instead of it having a sharp edge, it softens it and brings a little bit of the lighter yellow down a little bit further onto the penguin's chest there. All right, and now we can move on to our spiced marmalade. And that's just so that we can add a little bit of accents to the yellow and make it not look quite so flat. So we'll dip into that. Get just a little bit of our spiced marmalade. To accent just a little bit. All right, so that just adds a little bit of color. We're going to add a little bit also on his beak here. That one I didn't water down so that we can get it to be just a little bit stronger of an orange color. And there we go. So that didn't take too much on the effort that we need for getting just a little bit of accent and color to make it pop a little bit. I'm actually going to just go ahead and dry it just a little bit so that we can go ahead and move on to adding a little bit of color onto the bodies of our penguins. And we can take it off of the little piece of tape now. Alright, so now I'm going to take my black soot, and I'll probably go ahead and use a little bit bigger brush. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the black soot here to just give a little bit of accent and color as well. All right. That adds a little bit of depth as well when we add a little bit of color to where they've got the white spaces, because we know that he's got color in that spot, but we didn't want to make it solid black or then you couldn't see the accents. So we'll do that there. A little bit up here on, actually I guess it's our little mama penguin, I should be calling her she, our little mama penguin and her baby. Alright, and then I want to do just a little bit of shading, so I'm going to get it a little bit darker in some spots. Again, this just adds to the realism. Gives it a little more depth so it doesn't look quite so flat. And I'm going to add just a little bit here around the bottom. Let's add a little more accent up here. A little bit of the shadowing. All right, that's looking good. All right, and then our baby, since our baby is younger and the fur hasn't quite developed into a real solid black, we're going to do a lighter. So I'm going to do a lot of water with that one for our baby so that it's more of a very, very pale kind of gray color. Let's add a little bit more water. So our baby is still young and fuzzy. All right, and let's add just some shadows here. Once again, to give some depth. I'm going to wipe off, make sure I don't mix my colors too much. Okay. There we go. Give our baby a little bit of depth there. Now, I'm also going to, because it still looks flat, I want to add just a tiny little bit of some shadows around the mama's flippers. And right around the baby, the outline of the baby, since he's standing in front of her, so we'll have a little bit of shadowing around there as well. And then just a little bit under her beak. So these aren't things you have to do, but it just kind of keeps it from being real flat, gives you a little bit more depth and more of a 3D look to it. All right, so now we've got our mama and our baby all colored, and we're ready to go ahead and put in our shadowing underneath so it doesn't look like they're just floating around. So I'm going to take my black soot and just a little bit of a little dauber here. And put just a little bit of a shadow underneath there. Again, so that it doesn't look like they're just kind of floating in the air. And then I always like to ground them just a little bit more by adding some little details like some grass. So it looks like, again, like they're standing on something and not just floating up in the air. So there we go, that just kind of gives a little bit of a detail there. So now let's go ahead and move on to adding our snow and our snowflakes. So we will get out again. This set comes with a couple of snowflakes and the word snow. So we will use those. And with the snow, it actually says let it snow, but I kind of just want the word snow. So the way I'm going to do that is just about basically the same way as I did with the masking out of the penguin, but with this, it's such a small little tiny bit, I'm just going to take a little piece of tape cover up the Let It with the tape, and let's bring our little stamp platform back, and then I'm going to now we can move on to putting our snowflakes on. And looking at that and I think, I don't think I got as much ink on there as I want. So I'm going to go ahead and just tape off one more time my Let It words. And re-ink it up. Because I don't feel like I got enough of a darkness that I like to get on the word snow. There we go, that shows up a little bit better now. Now let's just go ahead and put our little snowflakes. Put one there. One right about there. Got a little smudge on that. So pick those up. Ink up the snowflakes. And then we'll do one more, maybe right down here. And now we're down to our final step before we put the card together. I always like to put just a little bit of an edging around it, a frame. So I'm going to use the prize ribbon and a little small dauber. And then I'm just going to kind of go around the edge. And just add in a little bit of a frame. To me, that seems to pull the eye towards the center and just gives it a nice little finished look. Okay, now we're ready to put the card together. So I'll start out by taking the frame that's centered on my frame. And then we will take our card Repeat the process. And now we have our finished card. Thank you so much for watching my video tutorial today. I hope you enjoy making this fun card. Try to think of some other cute ways you can use this penguin stamp set. Like I said, great for a little Mother's Day card. There are a lot of things that you can do. Remember to check out the DellBellasDesigns.com website for more tutorials on the design team page. Have a great day.